Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. I'm about to say something really controversial. That's kind of the nature of this channel. And brace yourself, everybody. A chance about minute encounter between Rhea Ripley and Stephanie Vaquer has me way more excited for that potential match and their potential interaction in Money in the Bank on Saturday than I have for what is quote unquote the biggest women's wrestling match of all time between Toni Storm and Mercedes Mone. And that is not to disrespect either one of Toni Storm or Mercedes Mone and what they have done in their careers, because there's no doubt on resume, that is the bigger match infinitely. But in terms of star power right now, and let me take you guys back to I think it's Tudum, the Netflix, Rhea Ripley in a room full of promoting a bunch of Netflix shows, got one of the best reactions there. She consistently gets one of the best reactions in WWE, male or female. Stephanie Vaquer is getting there already. And she literally just had her first night as the main roster superstar. They had a chance encounter for about 30 seconds to a minute backstage. I felt infinitely more interested in that than whatever that forced last segment was of AEW Dynamite, which was, both of these were aura offs. Let's call it what it is. They were both basically just straight up aura. But Mercedes and Toni, it just came across off because it was just like and I think some of it has to do with just Mercedes just really does not come across like a real person. It's almost like she's trying to act. Toni Storm, on the other hand, that's her character. That's her character. She's an actress. She's timeless Toni Storm. Mercedes, with Stephanie Vaquer, and yes, I guess she's a dark angel and Rhea Ripley is mommy, but when you saw those two, you knew that this was going to happen inevitably when they were on Raw. The fact that it happened on Stephanie's first night on Raw when she qualifies for the same match, like, I already want to see those two go at it in Money in the Bank on Saturday. And not saying that I'm not looking forward to what's going to happen at All In, but with one chance encounter, like, if you can hit all the right notes, and obviously these two are incredibly popular, and like I said, Toni Storm has just way more popularity, but Mercedes, just for whatever reason in the last year, is just kind of coasting off of her past success. And I think that's kind of hurt her a little bit, because my problem with her is that she hasn't evolved. She hasn't done anything different. She's maybe elevated a couple people here and there, but she's just beaten a bunch of people. And then she's just kind of just, done the cringe dance. She's got the cringe CEO chant. And it's, the fact that she keeps winning and that she doesn't really change any of what she's done to, get the crowd more interested in her. I think that's kind of hurt her a little bit. And maybe that's kind of, and part of it is like, yeah, I don't think that this match should have happened. And you could have potentially, built this up to a point where, hey, we can do this at some other point. I don't know when they're going to do Stephanie Vaquer versus Rhea Ripley, but whenever they do it, it's going to probably be at a WrestleMania, and it's going to probably have a much better build than whatever the fuck this is going to be between Mercedes and Toni. Because this will bring me to my next point. Toni Storm is having a tag match with Mina Shirakawa, a woman she beat at the pay-per-view just unceremoniously, and they're going to take on Sky Blue and Julia Hart, who hadn't teamed together because Sky Blue had been hurt and Julia Hart had been hurt. So they're going to just put them together, and Mercedes is going to be on commentary. You get 6 weeks to build the Dream Women's feud, and this is my problem. Like, if you had the roles reversed in terms of who was booking this, I would have way more faith in Triple H to, get this to the finish line. It was just a simple chance encounter. They didn't have to say very many words. Rhea just basically said, hey, happy to have you here. They shook hands. They smiled at each other, and that was it. And when Rhea went in the room, Rhea showed up in the room, people went crazy. People went crazy when Stephanie showed up for the match, and when she was getting interviewed backstage by Kathy Kelly. I'll do this for my sister Kathy. If you guys Watch Family Guy, you'll get that joke. That's an inside joke between me and my sister. I do that for her because she's listening to me watch and while this is taping. So I just need to pop the crowd here in this room. You guys know her from being in the Peanut Gallery on some of our live watch-alongs. And who knows, maybe we might do one for Money in the Bank, because Money in the Bank is always a very fun show. But yeah, like, it's just, I'm watching this and then I was thinking about it, and I seen some people interact on it, and yeah, maybe it does sound a little bit tribalistic, but you just, sometimes it's the simplest of things in building dream matches. And for whatever reason, this just feels so, the Toni Storm Mercedes Moné things feel so unbelievably forced because they have nowhere else to go. Mercedes is not nearly at the level of a peak in terms of her popularity as she was a year ago. A lot of that novelty is worn off because she's still a great wrestler. She's not a great promo, and she hasn't really changed any of her gimmick whatsoever. And Toni Storm is just going to freaking eat her for lunch if this is just going to be a feud based off of promos. Because it was just like even Toni, who was trying to do what she was doing. Toni, I think, is intentionally kind of cringe because that's kind of her character, is that she's kind of this over the top kind of, Hollywood movie star, like, that's just kind of like a cartoon character, but it's endearing to all of us. Mercedes is supposed to be like a boss, and it's just cringe. And like whereas Stephanie Vaquer and Rhea Ripley just come off like badasses. They just come off like badasses. Like, it's just, it felt different. And again, this match isn't going to happen in 6 weeks. This match could happen at WrestleMania 42. It could happen at WrestleMania 43. It could happen at a SummerSlam. It could happen somewhere else. They're going to have an interaction of some capacity and give us an appetizer to the main course. AEW is just spilling their guts out with their biggest match that they have available because they have no one else in their women's division that's even worth a damn, because these two women have just run roughshod over the division. So in that respect, I'm more excited to see what Stephanie and Rhea do in WWE, whereas opposite of, and I'm like I said, I don't know if it'll be a better wrestling match than what Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. I think there is not a doubt in my mind. Let me get this out of the way. And I know people are going to just, omit this part from their, comments in this. There is not a doubt in my mind that Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné are going to deliver one of the greatest women's matches of all time. There is not a doubt in my mind that that's going to happen. How they get there is really just the other part of this. Because listen, they're banking on this match being so effing good that they're not even going to bother to try to build everything, and they're just going to do this strictly off of aura. And the problem with that is Mercedes is not nearly at the level of star as she was. And it's ironic that really the downfall of this began when she faced Stephanie Vaquer almost a year ago. And Rhea Ripley has just been one of the most popular women's stars in WWE for the last couple of years. She's one of the most popular stars, period. Like, she's getting enormous reactions at Netflix events. So forgive me if I just feel more excited, even though this match between Stephanie and Rhea is further down the line than this match between Mercedes and Toni is. So take with that what you will. Maybe it is a little bit tribalistic and whatnot, but it's just these two segments were kind of similar in structure. One of them was a lot shorter in time and had less dialogue and felt infinitely more important than the other one. And it was the WWE one that felt more important than the AEW one. They're relying way, way, way too much on star power and on, wrestling ability for that Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné match at All In, which no question is going to be one of the great women's matches of all time. They're going to have to really fuck that match up to make it feel really not special. The problem is the build is going to be terrible because they just have nothing really to bank on. They're wasting another week on a tag match where Mercedes is just going to be on commentary and they'll have a cheap run-in or something like that. It's not going to be a build because they can't bank on it because Mercedes can't cut a promo. And she's going to get clowned, and she's going to made to be look stupid. So anyway, that's my thought on that. Get at me in the comments. I know all you sickos and you Mercedes stands are going to get mad at me because you can't take an opinion. You can't take it when I'm going after one of your favorites. Again, I've always respected Mercedes the wrestler, but she has gotten massively exposed as a top star and a top person in this division. So we'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye bye.